Hello, welcome back to the North Face of Wine. Today, I continue to lay her down, what we call attaché, the vine, the sarment on the line. We'll explain to you why we do it. And then I take you around this village to see within a few square meters the differences of upkeep of topsoil. A little bit like we did the last week. At the end of the episode, I'll take you and we'll see many more differences of topsoil, and we'll do that again next episode. It's important for you to get the sense of the width of the thinking and the different possibilities. Essentially, what is in your glass of wine? And then we'll finish this episode with a little story on tips. So, one may ask, why do we lay her down, as I mentioned last week? As you can see, it's a lengthy process. Been doing this the whole week. And the process is because a vine is an acrotone plant. It actually grows faster in the spring from the top than the bottom. And so the process of laying it down is to regulate the flow of sap so that the buds become more even. It prevents, if we let it up, the top bud will grow much faster than the bottom one. It seems counterintuitive, but that's exactly what happens. So by laying it down, it evens out the growth of the buds. But there is a but. Most winemakers here, I've noticed, are deep into the process of doing this. And some winemakers, again, this difference. Some winemakers are not in a hurry because last week you saw me in a t-shirt, but today was only 5 degrees. Yesterday was 3 degrees. We had snow on the mountain. I did a short on that. We had snow. It's very stressful in terms of late frost. So some winemakers wait as long as possible because if we suffer a late frost, then the bud that will suffer the most is the top one. And the other ones, so they wait to lay it down so that the lower buds are less developed and therefore will be less inclined to be frozen. The buds are clearly coming out now. Uh, down, we'll be a little bit later in the episode. I'm in what we call the coteau, the mountainside. I'm really on the flank of the mountain. It's very steep here. But I noticed earlier as we were shooting that the buds are more developed already down in the valley than up here. So that's the reason for some people, you would think they are a little bit behind, but again, there's a thought to it. Here we have what I call a double row. This originally was made for the passage of machinery. These double rows, every 5 rows, I'm going to plant. I'm going to put some fruit trees as well as some red vines. In the 1860s, the U.S., the vines from the U.S., the indigenous vines from the U.S. have a resistance to what we call phylloxera, which we talked about in previous episodes. So most all the vines in Europe are grafted onto roots, American roots. And you will see a little bit later in this episode a little vine with something red on it. It's red wax to prevent the graft from being infected. That said, we'll have a whole episode on this kind of thing. So as the vine came from the United States, the graft came from the United States, it got infected by a disease from there, which was imported here, which is flavescence dorée. It's caused by an insect. And so what I do, one of the reasons why I'm going to plant fruit trees is that I'm going to take care of a bird called mésange, also called a tit in English. And as I said, there's always a little bit of a romantic angle to winemaking and vineyards. I like to think of them as very soft, as we know they are, little ones with particular affinities. So I put these I put these grease balls, and I will have literally hundreds of them in a few years. I put green grease balls, and they come in the winter. As I mentioned, the temperature dropped. We really want to conserve because this insect called cicadelle, these little tit birds eat them. So I want as many as possible on the parcel and not suffer from this flavescence dorée. In our presentation of various different ways of taking care of the topsoil, I thought for this episode to show you an old-styled vineyard. I just measured this. It's 80 centimeters, a little over 2 feet wide. And again, it's this human size because with the pickaxe, they would come with the pickaxe and work around the vines, and they could do 2 at the same time. You see, it's very much a human body reference. Whereas later, we're going to see much wider, several meters wide, for for special machinery, and any size in between, of course, because we are in Chignin. A vine is made of tubes and not rings. And you can see literally my glove here, that there's literally a hole inside inside of here. It is not dependent, it's completely independent of the other. The roots are dependent on each other, but you can see a hole right in the middle, and then it joins back in. It's really, these are tubes and not rings. And that's why they are so tortuous as well. As I mentioned to you, I want to show you as many examples of tending to the topsoil as possible. And here we are in this very old vineyard, very old parcel, whereby it is very much human size. It has not been adapted to machinery, as we will see, the various different sizes for various machineries. But this is very much what you would see on a label, vieille vigne, old vine. I point out to you that this soil is very bare. It may have had some treatments over the decades, because this is most likely at least 60 years of age, if not more. Treatment that were not so great at the time for the soil. As you can see, the parcel right across the way is a grassy vineyard. It's a totally different way of looking at things. Here, we're leaving some green. It's called green fertilizer. We will see other example of green fertilizers in this episode, but here there's clearly the willingness to let some of the grass grow. And here we have a lot of dandelions for some reason. May have to do with the type of fertilizer, chemical or natural, that is used, just like we saw in episode 5. But there's no plowing here. Whereas if we go again across the other way, over here, you will see, follow me, and right here, the winemaker is not interested so much in plowing, but rather scratching. This is a scratch. There's no plowing here like we saw in episode 5. This is a scratch right in the middle of this trayon here. It is not. It is again a different way, as you can see under the vines. It is not plowed at all. Another way of looking at things, another way, another thought, another idea that the winemaker finds beneficial for himself. So to give you a geographical sense of how little the space is, we have the old vine parcel right there that we just talked about. Then the scratched up parcel, not plowed and not under the vine. And then right across the way, we have another way of doing things. Follow me. Here, the winemaker under the vine is adding some type of straw. We have here. This is also called a Green fertilizer. There are green fertilizers that are planted, and this was not planted. This is a green fertilizer that is there, how to say, to protect. It gets near to what we're going to do on our parcel in a far, far bigger way. Something I will explain in the next episode. And another example with no plowing, no straw on the ground, probably some old vines, but just the desire to leave the topsoil as it is and just let some grass grow. We're in the mid-March now, and probably what will happen here, they'll come with literally a lawnmower, a big lawnmower, and just mow the grass and let the grass be itself a fertilizer, and the roots go deeper and deeper, and which will create the aerobic situation that we need down in the ground. Here we are, next to the old vine parcel, just a few feet away. And we can see the adaptation there. It was human size. But look at the width of these lines here, the trayon. Whereas there would have been one, two, three, four trayons with the old vine. Here we only have two. But do notice that they're very high. And the sarment, what we did in episode 1 and 2, the trimming, the pruning is much higher than the old vine. The old vines, they kept about 6 buds. Here, as you can see, the loss of trayon is compensated by the length of the sarment that is left from the pruning. We have 12, 13 buds here, whereas normally we would leave about 6. In the old vines, they're not getting any higher than 6, but here, to compensate, that's what they have to do. And very often, they have 2 sarments as well. But the longer the sarment, the more fruit there will be, of course, the more buds, therefore the more fruit. And that's a way of compensating for the loss of the tightness of the old style of planting vines. It's a completely different vineyard with a completely different type of adaptation for the equipment they actually use. However, in terms of topsoil, it's pretty much so far not interfered with. I think they may be using some type of herbicide right under, but I don't think there's gonna be any plowing here. It's too spread out. It's not needed. But again, another example of doing things differently, either for the vines themselves, or for the equipment they have, or for the parcel itself. Here they use what is called an enjambeur. It's a very big machine. They come right inside the vine, the trayon. And so they have to adapt. And it depends, they would not be able to use that type of machinery up where I am, where the parcel is, because it's far too steep and this thing would tilt over. So maybe this winemaker here has mostly flat land and has to adapt to what he has, or what was maybe his father started with. There's many situations like that where the father had a type of machinery, and you can't really get away from that because to buy new ones would be too expensive, too prohibitive. Here, continuing on this topsoil differences, here we clearly have the intent of using some sort of herbicide. It's clear that the winemaker here feels that is his best choice. Whatever it is, whatever it is, but there's a very clear green band in the middle, and his machinery has sort of a funnel that comes all the way down and treat just under the vine. Sometimes you will see these plastic sort of police, type of stuff. This indicates that a vine has an illness. Uh, we'll talk at length about this, but you see, they put this, and now he's he put he planted a new vine here. So once again, a difference. We saw earlier some scratched in the middle, but not under the vine. But here we clearly have a plowing under the vine. That brings up the soil. This is called chausser in French, as if putting a shoe on. This is an old way of doing things. The machinery is meant to mimic the old way that used to be done by hand. And it's called chausser. Very different way of doing things here again. A little flower, early flowers. These flowers here actually are planted. I'm going to show you now at the end of this episode two radical different ideas. The new ideas is they actually planned this. It has a very nice fragrance, but it's a quick growing mustard plant. And we also have fava beans. These are interseason plants, which after the harvest, they come with the machine and plant these, leave them all winter long, and they're starting to grow now. Not sure if we're going to get, there's 5 rows of this. In any case, it's planted by the winemaker. It's interseason, and they will cut this at the end of the spring and leave it there. This is called a green fertilizer. It's it's very nice. It's really an ongoing thought process on how to best take care of the soil, the topsoil. It will stay there per hectare. To give you a sense, it's about 10 tons that is needed per hectare per year of green matter. And now, if you follow me right across this little path here, here's an old-fashioned way of doing things, whereby this is totally plowed. It's absolutely totally plowed. We saw a little earlier in the episode some plowing, but this is super radical. The idea is to completely take care of grass, to not have any competition whatsoever for water, and to aerate, to bring air into the soil. This is quite old fashioned, it's very radical, and it will not be what I'm going to do on the parcel. Thank you very much for watching. Next time, I'll take you again on various different parcels to see more differences on how to take care of topsoil or their own terroir in various different parcels here in the village. And we will also go away from the village looking for wine presses as we move towards harvest inside in the year. I have to look for a press in order to be prepared in September to do what we will do, that is the vinification of our juice that will become wine. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, in vines we trust.